conferences and they'd be filled with old farts. And now I'm an old fartess. And I'm just delighted. And maybe I was speaking with someone last night. Maybe something like now is a turning point. Maybe young people devoted to freedom are coming around in a big way and not assuming that the government is where the action is. I mean, we're in the town where the assumption is the government is where the action is. And it may be where the money is, but it's not where the ideological action is, I think. And that's my theme this afternoon. It's the talk is humanomics and how we got rich. What's humanomics? Well, it's economics with the humans left in. I'm an economist. I was once a Marxist, then I became a standard issue Keynesian Democrat as an undergraduate, and then I gradually became an economic engineer, so to speak. I was trained as a transportation economist, and I started doing economic history, and I got to be more of a historical economist. And then my first job was at Chicago. Milton Friedman was a personal friend of mine, and I sort of adopted that. In a way, I've been everything in my life. I've been a communist. I've been a Marxist. I've been everything. But I finally came in the last 15 years or so to an Austrian understanding of economics more, and understanding that Austrian economics in particular, and some other subgroups of economics, are capable of bringing in full human beings instead of humans who deal in the virtue of prudence only. Prudence is a virtue. Taking care of yourself, taking responsibility for yourself, and learning how to look both ways when you cross the street and so on, is a virtue. Like justice or love or hope. But it's not the only virtue. And it's not the only thing that characterizes human beings. Yet, what I call Samuelsonian economics, Paul Samuelson invented it in the 1930s and 40s. Paul was my mother's mixed doubles tennis partner for a long time. So I'm not hostile to Samuelson. I was trained in his kind of economics. But that kind of economics assumes that the only thing an economist should pay attention to is prudence, the virtue of prudence. Maximize under constraints. I call the central figure in modern, usual economics, I call him Max U. In German, Max U. And I always say that he would be a more sensible person if he got a gender change in between, became Maxine U. But he reduces everyone to his utility function. So if he loves his wife, he loves her because she gives him pleasure. And that's part of what motivates people. I admit that. As I said, prudence is among the 7 principal virtues. But prudence characterizes all life, down to and including viruses. That is, life, in evolutionary terms, seeks the light, seeks to survive, seeks to look both ways when it crosses the street. A lion is in no sense courageous, right? Because lions, they've come to an elephant, the lion meets an elephant, and he runs away, prudently. That's an exercise of the virtue of prudence. It'd be crazy for him to say, I'm a lion, I'm the king of the forest, who's this elephant? I'm going to attack the elephant. It's not going to work out well. All forms of like grass is rational. Ever thought of that? Grass maximizes what? Getting light, getting nutrients from the soil, and grass does a hell of a job of it. Grass does a very good job of being grass. And that's prudence. So all forms of life have prudence. Back when I was a young academic, we were delighted in Chicago to hear about these experiments which showed that rats and pigeons were rational. Turns out that for rats, cherry soda is a normal good. If you increase the income of the rat, she consumes more cherry soda. Cool. And we were so thrilled by that. Oh boy, this shows the power of economics. And I've gradually come to understand that it shows the weakness of economics. Because if rats, we all know some people who are like this, but rats were just maximizers, are not fully human. You've seen this wonderful cartoon movie, Ratatouille, where the joke is that the rat is the most human of almost all the characters. And the humans acting like bad rats. So that's the theme. A full human has the 6 other principal virtues, namely love, justice, temperance, faith, hope, and courage. Love, justice, temperance, faith, hope, and courage, plus prudence, are a pretty good philosophical psychology for humans. Humans, there are versions of love among all mammals, and birds too. They take care of their young in a way that fish don't, and most reptiles. So I own a dog. His name is Will Shakespeare, and he's the love of my life. He loves me. I love him. So there's a sense in which other animals exercise love, and they can sometimes be seen to exercise a kind of courage. But faith and hope, although I must say my dog hopes for a treat, but you know, they're less, well, virtuous and viceful than we are. So think of an economics that brought the other virtues into play. Now, I'm not throwing away what I learned from economics. I've written long books extolling the virtues of a prudence-only view of the economy. I have a textbook, free, by the way, on my website. Its last edition was 1985, so, but it's called The Applied Theory of Price, and it's an exercise in prudence-only max-U economics. And it's pretty serious. If you want to learn how to think like an economist, my book and David Friedman's book, he's here somewhere, it was, or Landsberg books, those are the Chicago School intermediate price theory books that you ought to read. But I thought a couple of years ago that I might revise it. I mean, it has been since 1985. But I found that it was really hard to do because I then had to think up a bunch of applications of humanomics because my opinions changed. Then I believed, 1970s, I believed that prudence is all and entry and exit is all you need to know about. And it's still very, very important in thinking about the economy. But we should be also thinking about these other aspects of our essential humanness. So that's humanomics. Now, my friend Herbert Gintis, he was a much more serious Marxist when he was a kid, but he's converted too, as I think all sensible people eventually do. And by the way, there's a terrific cover of the National Review, I think it was last August, which showed the head of Karl Marx. Maybe some of you saw this. The head of Karl Marx on this cool little cartoon body. And he's got a coffee from Starbucks in one hand, and he's got his earpiece in, and he's listening to, I don't know, rock music or something, and he's got a little chain. And he's just so cool, no one could be cooler than this Marx figure. Except that he's got a t-shirt saying, "Still wrong." And that's about how I think about it. In fact, I might write a book using some of my criticisms of Marxism and call it, with this cartoonist's permission, "Still Wrong," and use his cartoon on the cover. So anyway, Herb Gintis, a very fine economist, said some years ago, it must have been 8 or 9 years ago, when I was presenting my first book, it's actually 3, not 4. I say a trilogy might be considered somewhat self-indulgent, but a tetralogy is an abomination. So my 3rd volume, which I just finished, it's in production at the University of Chicago Press. It's called Bourgeois Equality: How Betterment Became Ethical, 1600 to 1848, and then suspect. That's number 3 and the last, but it's even thicker than the other 2. Here's the first one, Bourgeois Virtues, and this is the one I presented that Herb Gintis heard. It was published in 2006, available Amazon.com, cheap. Bourgeois Dignity, Why Economics Can't Explain the Modern World, Volume 2, and then there'll be a 3rd, and I'll have a boxed set. Harry Potter? How cool is that? Yes! I'll die happy if I earn 1/100th of her royalties. I'll also die rich. But Herb said, yeah, it's nice to talk about the virtues. I get it, he said. He was my commentator at an American Economic Association session on it. He said, but you need a killer app. A killer app. You know, in other words, so what? What does this tell you about the economic world that we didn't know before? And I've got a killer app. It's in volume 2, and then especially in volume 3. So put your orders in early to the University of Chicago Press, and you'll see the killer app. And that's the second half of my title this morning, namely, How We Got Rich. Because I think I've discovered, I put it this way, this is kind of a vain way of putting it, but it's more or less how I feel about it. I think I've discovered how modern economic growth happened, why it happened. Now, I regard that as the chief question in economics and economic history. Rather obviously, it's the chief question. Look around. Look around you. I don't see any Habsburg chins here. I don't see the descendants of the crowned heads of Europe and Asia and Africa and Latin America. I see the descendants of peasants here.